Ayelet Weizman from Israel, and I'm working at a non-profit organization called SUNY. SUNY Center for Web-Based Learning. I hope you can hear me, but then you won't see me, so that's okay. And today, I would like to talk about the question, is it really possible? Playing and learning, do they go together? And I want to focus on primary school and middle school, on young children. And first I'd like to ask you, does everyone here think that it is possible to learn from digital games in school? Who believes? Okay, I assume that most of the people that come to this conference believe in it. So I will show you some of the challenges and the way we studied the parameters, or how can you develop a game that is actually effective. So here are pictures of some of our games, and I will show you also a short game. So usually when we talk about playing, the association is young children playing with different games. When we talk about very young children, we do think about learning, right? Young children usually learn from playing. But when they get older, there is some dichotomy. Like, you play after school, you play at home. Many children are addicted to online or digital games, but not in school. Usually, games and school do not go together. When you ask a student about learning, what is learning, maybe the first association would be something really boring and not something so engaging as a game. If you ask teachers what is learning, maybe they think about the massive classrooms, standing in the center and lecturing, or maybe trying to use some technology. But games and learning are not really, well, at least for many years so far. In the recent years, there is some change. There is more and more evidence for learning from games. But I am going to focus on science, and forgot to say my background is science, planetary science, and science education. And now I'm working on educational technology. So I have all this perspective, and I think in science learning there are even additional challenges to regular learning. There is low motivation to learn science. There is difficulty to see the connection between science and everyday life. And many science concepts are not intuitive, and they involve complicated relations between parameters. This is maybe where games can come in. Here are some ideas that were recently developed and published. Digital games can be a natural way to learn practices, skills, and values. Games encourage cooperation, teamwork, problem solving, and creativity. Serious games, which are games that have a serious purpose, were found to be effective in teaching social practices and norms. So games can teach not only content, but maybe content is the less thing that they teach. They can teach you practices, skills, values, and norms. What about science learning and games? The main advantage of games for science learning is for providing a safe space for experience, mistakes, and revisions. What I mean is that students usually think that in science there is only one solution to any problem. And with games we can show them not only there could be more than one solution, but also it is not that bad to fail. You can fail, you can try again. This is not bad. This is even part of the game to do this. Serious games can deal with complex subjects involving multiple variables. This is an advantage of games in science learning. And high-order thinking skills are naturally developed in games. But there are more challenges. Players do not always reach the level of understanding, abstraction and assimilation that the game designers or teachers or whoever uses the game are expecting. Sometimes we need mediation in order to reach a meaningful learning from games. So how can you solve this problem? How can the game be both engaging and fun and also teaching? How can you learn from something that is a game? And the game deals implicitly with complex issues, but how do you make them explicit? So at SUNYT Center, we developed a model. According to our model, we developed a game unit, a game. But in the game, the learning is implicit. It is not explicit. It is not a game that you have to stop and then solve the problem. No, you engage in the game, but then there are interactive learning units separated from the game, but they appear in the same website. And when the students or children after school, they play the game, if something is not clear to them, they can go to the learning unit. The model connects between implicit learning in the game and explicit learning in the learning units. In the learning units, thinking strategies, including the game, are exercised and explained. And there we can deal with one topic after the other. In the game, we use the whole picture. We show the whole picture. Users can decide to play first or to enter the interactive learning unit first. The rationale for this model is that by integrating the game with the learning unit, we create a meaningful learning experience. And also motivation for learning may be developed in the game and then provided by the learning unit. I want to talk about a specific example from science education. I will show three pictures. This is a game that deals with environmental issues. And here is an example of a learning unit dealing with one topic about cleaning the beaches. This is another game that deals with health and with combining nutrition and physical activity, while you have to take care of a character. You can choose a boy or a girl, and in order to take care of them, you have to let them eat enough and have enough physical activities. And here is one of the learning units that deal with the pyramid, the food pyramid. The Israeli one. I know that in different countries sometimes it's not pyramid, but this is what we use in Israel. And this is the third game that I want to focus on. This is about physical activity, and it teaches how it is important to do only 60 minutes a day of physical activity, and then you can become healthier and happier. And here is one learning unit that deals with different possibilities of activities that you can do daily. We define, or we call the games that we develop at this center casual serious games. What I mean is that these games are based on design principles of an educational game. I will show what I mean later. They are based on a known genre of games. This is very important. We don't invent something new. We take a genre that we know is working. For example, a defense game. For example, taking care of a character game. These games are known to the students, to the children, and then if they see this game with a different content, they will not feel this thing is unknown to them. These games have a relatively short playing time. They are simple and very easy to play and understand, and that's why they also require a relatively low budget to develop. And we are a non-profit organization. We do not sell these games, we just publish them freely on the internet. In a study about one of these games, we investigated the relation between the game design parameters and the learning experience of children. And we wanted to see, do they feel flow? I hope most of you already know the theory of flow. If not, let me know. Because I don't have enough time, so I want to hurry. So our hypothesis was that by changing the game parameters, the relation between challenge and skill will be influenced. Challenge and skill, the balance between challenge and skill, this is what creates the flow experience. You feel like there is no time, there is nothing bothers you, you are just, all of you are swimming in the game. So this is what we checked in this study, and we want to see how the flow experience and the learning experience are related and influenced by the design parameters of the games. So what are the design principles of educational games and especially these casual serious games in science? Guy, in some of his books, talked about educational games. He had many principles, but I think the main principle that you have to align the game goals with the learning goals. If you want to win the game, you have to understand the content. That's what I mean. Align the goals. The second one is integrate the learning content in the game. Do not put it as something exterior to the game. And the flow principles that are actually also the game principles. For example, Keeley, that wrote several papers and still about this idea, he defined the flow antecedents. What do you need to prepare in order to achieve flow? So you have to balance the challenge and skill. You have to keep playability, that kids will play and be focused in the game, and the gamefulness, feeling that this game is engaging. You must have clear goals, maybe very limited goals in one game, immediate feedback for the player, and there should be a frame story around this game. It can be very small. In casual serious games, the games are short, so the story is also short, but there is some connection to the real life. And in science games, additional to all the other principles, the game factors should correlate with the scientific model. So what did we do? We developed some games, and I must say that the game in the topic of health were developed together with the Ministry of Health in Israel. And the subject here is healthy and active lifestyle. Our research question was, how can we influence the flow experience and the learning experience through the design of game parameters? We piloted the game before publishing it online in a primary school class. We had 2 classes of 20 students in each class. And we collected data through online questionnaires and audio-taped group discussions. Here is the game that I am focusing on today. It is called Couch Potatoes Defense. This is the English name. And the idea is that it's a defense game. So I hope some of you know what a defense game is. You have to put some, well, I will show you, it will be more easy to explain. But you have to defend against some characters, some enemies, and here your enemies are actually the couch potatoes. You want to fight these couch potatoes and make them healthy and active. So the main goal is that you have to be active at least 60 minutes a day in order to be healthy and happy. And we wanted to show there's a large variety of activities you can do without changing your everyday routine. How do we align the game goals with the learning goals? So in the game, you win only if each character collects 60 minutes of physical activities. The characters, you can see they transform from sad and lazy to happy and active. And the background represents an everyday route from school home, and all those places where you can do activities. And there's a large variety of activities you can choose. So I will, I want to show the, I suppose this is, I don't understand Russian. Okay, this is the game. This is the main screen. And I will show you just the beginning of the game, which is actually an explanatory. So this is a couch potato. It is sad and tired, and it just wants to get to bed. Your job is to transform it into an active and happy guy before it reaches the bed. 60 minutes of physical activity a day, that is all you need to be active and happy. You see that it transformed to be blue. This is also how you win the game. If 4 couch potatoes reach the bed, you lose. How do you fight the couch potatoes? You choose an activity from these categories, you put it on an open circle. Oh no. And then, okay. I don't know what to skip. So these categories are actually the categories of physical activity. So we teach them about these categories, and each category you can put in different backgrounds. I'll go quickly. Yeah, and this is the background. You can see this is the schoolyard, the park, and home. And in each one of them you can put these activities, and it will show in a different variation. And then when the couch potato gets there, it has to do it must go inside and do this activity, and then it collects points. Okay, so I'll quickly go back to my presentation. So what did we find? We saw that the challenge to skill balance was improved between the first pilot, A, the second one, B, and the third one, C, where between these pilots we calibrated the parameters of the game. These parameters, for example, how many couch potatoes, the difference of time between them, and so on, these, we saw that these parameters make changes in what the students replied in the questionnaire, in the answers. And finally, we reached this flow zone. The flow zone, which just, I cannot say the name, Mihai, the first one who published the flow theory, he showed what the flow channel is. We also revised gamefulness. We saw to what level in the game kids could, what level do they reach. And first, it was not a Gaussian distribution. We saw there were not enough in the first level, but then after improving the parameters, we saw a better distribution. The flow experience was improved in all these categories of challenge to skill balance, clear goals, playability, and so on. And the learning experience improved. As you can see, it was since the beginning it was high level, but the challenge parameter was different. In the first pilot, they didn't feel enough challenge. And in the third one, they felt more challenged. So the conclusion, you have to be challenged enough in order to enjoy the game. We do have some evidence for learning, but we also need to study it a little longer. We saw that students, when we asked them, did you learn something new about physical activities? They replied, 44% replied they did in phase B. They said they learned more about different activities, and they also reported they changed their attitudes toward physical activity. Here are some quotations. I learned it is important to be active in order to feel better. Or after playing this game, I know more possibilities of physical activity to do during the day. So, in conclusion, we found an improvement in the flow experience of primary school students that was associated with evidence for content learning and change of attitudes. And we see that using effective digital games in science teaching may develop students' internal motivation for learning. Of course, there is a lot more to study and to develop in order to see when and what games, when, how, and why are effective. And I want to show you this portal of our games. Each one of these icons is a website in one topic, for example, environment, health, economy, and these are the ministries in Israel that participate in it. For now, they are all in Hebrew, but we are planning to translate to English, maybe to Russian too, and I hope that children will learn and play at the same time.